Hello lovelies, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new here, and if you're new here, where you been? So today we're gonna do something just a little bit different. I was trying to get a lovely weekly vlog to you all, but my SD card decided to say, not gonna happen, and it corrupted and it ate all my footage. So I don't have it. It decided to yeet it away. I don't know where it is. It's all gone. And so I had to do something different. So I decided, okay, we're gonna do some research, we're gonna have some fun, and we're gonna do 24 anticipated books for 2024. Or my 24 most anticipated books for 2024. And these are all new releases and kind of like when they're coming out and all that kind of stuff. Now, as you know, if you've been here a while, Mama, she doesn't do well in giving synopses of books she has not read. So I will be cheating. I have my handy dandy laptop. My lovely laptop and I will be going through my list, and I'm thinking I'm going to move it. That didn't work as well. So that I don't have to keep looking away from the camera. We're gonna move it so that I don't have to keep looking away from the camera every time I need to look up a synopsis. So, but like I said, Mama doesn't remember things really well, especially things she has not read. And you know, because again, she's a mama, and this mama has mama brain, and she can barely remember what day it is half the time. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're gonna start with what I'm gonna call my runner-ups. So there were about 4 on my list that I was like, I made a very long list, and then I had to narrow it down. And so there are about 4 on my list that didn't make it into the top 24, and so real quick, we're gonna go through those. So the first one is The Reappearance of Rachel Price. This is one by Holly Jackson. If you've read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder or 5 Survive, that's the author we're talking about. This one is a little different. It does not follow that storyline, believe it or not, and it is more of a true crime fueled kind of mystery thing. Basically, Belle, who is 18, has lived her whole life in the shadow of her mom's mysterious disappearance. 16 years ago, Rachel Price vanished and young Belle was the only witness, but she has no memory of it. Rachel is gone, long presumed dead, and Belle wishes everyone would just move on. But the case is dragged up from the past when the Price family agree to a true crime documentary, and Belle can't wait for filming to end and for life to go back to normal. And then the impossible happens. Rachel Price reappears and life will never be normal again. Rachel has an unbelievable story about what happened to her. Unbelievable because Belle isn't sure it's real. If Rachel is lying, then where has she been all this time? And could she be dangerous? With the camera still rolling, Belle must uncover the truth about her mother and find out why Rachel Price really came back from the dead. So this is more true crime mystery. I have not read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. It is on my agenda to read the whole series at some point this year, but I've not read that one yet. But I hear it's a wonderful series. I hear it's a great series, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. But I'm really looking forward to this because I really love true crime stories, and so that's another reason I want to read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So yes, there you have it. Reappearance of Rachel Price. Next on my runner-up lists is The Book of Doors. So The Book of Doors is written by Gareth Brown, and this is a kind of a fantasy type story. And it says, in New York City, bookseller Cassie Andrews is living an unassuming life when she is given a gift by a favorite customer. It's a book, an unusual book, full of strange writings and mysterious drawings. And at the very front, there's a handwritten message to Cassie, telling her that this is the Book of Doors and that any door is every door. What Cassie is about to discover is that the Book of Doors is a special book that bestows an extraordinary powers on whoever possesses it, and soon she and her best friend Izzy are exploring all the Book of Doors can do, swept away from their quiet lives by the possibilities of traveling to anywhere they want. But the Book of Doors is not the only magical book in the world. There are other books that can do wondrous and dreadful things when wielded by dangerous and ruthless individuals who crave what Cassie now possesses. Suddenly, Cassie and Izzy are confronted by violence and danger, and the only person who can help them, it seems, Drummond Fox. He is a man fleeing his own demons, a man with his own secret library of magical books, and he has hidden away in the shadows for safekeeping, because there is a nameless evil out there that is hunting them all. I mean, it's a book about books. It's magical doors. I mean, what more could you want? So there. And then this is an author I've never heard of, and I don't know if it's a debut or not. Let's just be honest. So then the next one that kind of came up on the runner-up is The Life Impossible by Matt Haig. I have read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig and I really, really enjoyed it and I want to read more by him, but I have not. So this is kind of why, oh, aside from The Boy Called Christmas? Yeah, A Boy Called Christmas? Yeah, I think that was by him. I read that, it was cute, I enjoyed that one. And so this is his more upcoming book. There is literally really nothing out there about it. All that we know is it says it's a remarkable new novel from Matt Haig, and The Life Impossible is a story of a wild adventure, deep transformation, and gloriously heartwarming characters. It shows how a new outlook can burst into life at any moment and change everything. So again, I don't really know what it's about, but it is Matt Haig, so I thought I'd throw it on there. So then, last but not least on my runner-up is My Darling Dreadful Thing by Joanna Van Veen. So this is considered a horror, a gothic horror. Really, what kind of drew me to it is I'm trying to be more of a horror girly. I do have some horror books. I like thriller, but I saw this and I really liked the cover. So I was very drawn to it. Let's be honest, a lot of these books are, you know, don't judge a book by its cover, but I judged them all by their covers. Let's be honest with one another here. So this one is Ruse Beckman has a spirit companion only she can see. Ruth, strange, corpse-like, and dead for centuries, is the only good thing in Rue's life, which is filled with sordid backroom seances organized by her mother. That is until wealthy young widow Agnes Knoop attends one of these seances and asks Ruse to come live with her at the crumbling estate she inherited upon the death of her husband. The manner is unsettling and the attraction between Ruse and Agnes is palpable. So how does someone end up dead? Ruse is caught red-handed, but she claims a spirit is the culprit. Dr. Montague, a psychologist tasked with finding out whether Ruse can be considered mentally fit to stand trial, suspects she's created an elaborate fantasy to protect her from what really happened. But Ruse knows spirits are real. She's loved one of them. She'll have to prove her innocence and her sanity or lose everything. I thought that sounded kind of interesting. Okay, so now the first set of books that you're gonna see are literally the most anticipated books. My top tier, ones that I've known about, ones that I've really been looking forward to for months now, if not the entirety of, 2023 when the information came out about them. And so these are like auto by authors, these are series, these are things that I know that I'm going to be getting. And to kick us off, we are talking about House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. Now, if I am not going to go into any detail about this, I am not going to read the synopsis, I'm not going to do anything because this is book 3 in her Crescent City series. And so if you have not read those, I highly suggest you do, and I also highly suggest you read the ACOTAR series. She is Mother, we love her. I'm so excited for this, and this one is actually coming out at the end of the month, and I've already pre-ordered it to my Kindle. So I'm excited for that. So then also, an auto by author is TJ Klune. We love TJ Klune in this house. I do anyway. The rest of the family hasn't read them. I don't know why I said that. But my all-time favorite book by him is House in the Cerulean Sea. And he's releasing Somewhere Beyond the Sea, which is Arthur's story. If you've read House in the Cerulean Sea, you know that it is about a case manager he's a case manager for like department in charge of magical youth, okay? And his name is Linus, and Linus comes to this house, this orphanage in the Cerulean Sea, where he is supposed to be monitoring things because one of these kids is supposed to be he's supposed to bring death to the world, basically. And so he is sent on this task, he is sent to this orphanage in the Cerulean Sea. He meets Arthur Parnassus, who is the caregiver, the caretaker of the orphanage and of the children, and it's just a beautiful story. It is a beautiful story about going from like rule books and everything has to be done by the book to living life and enjoying it and just being there and falling in love and having a found family and all of these wonderful things. It is absolutely a beautiful story. Now, Somewhere Beyond the Sea is the sequel to that, and it is following Arthur rather than Linus, and basically his past has come to haunt him. And if you read House in the Cerulean Sea, you kind of understand that. I don't want to go into crazy amounts of detail because I don't want to give anything away. And so obviously TJ Klune is an auto-buy author for me. It does not matter what he has written. I am buying it. I love his writing style. I love that it is constantly found families. And found family is like one of my #1 tropes. And so, yes, I'm sorry, you put TJ Klune on it, and I'm like, then here, take my money. #3 is actually A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. So I have read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches when it was released, and I really enjoyed it. It was very cute, and so I'm like, okay, she can become an auto-buy author. And so then I find out that she's releasing this. Huh. Hello, I'm in. So this is an enchanting novel about a witch who has a second chance to get her magical powers and her life back on track. Sarah Swan was once one of the most powerful witches in Britain. Then she resurrected her great aunt Jasmine from the very recently dead, lost most of her magic, befriended a semi-villainous talking fox, and was exiled from her magical guild. Now she, slightly reluctantly and a bit grumpily, helps Aunt Jasmine run an inn for Lancashire, where she deals with quirky guests' shenanigans, tries to keep the talking fox in check, and longs for a magical future she lost. When she learns about an old spellbook that could hold the secret to restoring her power, she finds herself turning to Luke Larson, a gorgeous and icy historian who might be the only person who can help her unlock the book's mystery. The fact that he also happens to be her one-night stand from years ago is totally irrelevant. I'm very excited about that. That sounds like it is going to be cute, it is going to be fun, it is going to be whimsical. I'm in. I am so in. So then next is another auto-buy author for me. Sometimes her books are hit and miss. A lot of people did not like Happy Place and the way it went. I enjoyed Happy Place. I thought it was funny. The only issues I had was the miscommunication, because I'm not a fan of a miscommunication trope, but if you are, lucky you. But I did enjoy it. The only one that I've been hesitant to read is The People We Meet on Vacation, but just because I've heard that's not a good one. And so there you have it. She is releasing Funniest Story, and since she is technically an auto-buy author for me, I will be buying this. And so this is about Daphne, and Daphne has always loved the way her fiance Peter told their story, how they met, fell in love, and got engaged. He was really good at telling it, right up until the moment he realized he was actually in love with his childhood best friend, Petra. So which is how Daphne begins her new story. Stranded in beautiful Waning Bay, Michigan, without friends or family, but with a dream job as a children's librarian that barely pays the bills, and proposing to be roommate with the only person who can possibly understand her predicament, Petra's ex, Miles Nowak. Scruffy and chaotic with a penchant for taking solace in the sounds of heartbreak love ballads, Miles is exactly the opposite of practical, buttoned-up Daphne, whose coworkers know so little about her they have a running bet that she's either FBI or witness protection. The roommates mainly avoid one another until one day, while drowning their sorrows, they form a tenuous friendship and a plan. If said plan also involves posting deliberately misleading photos of their summer adventures together, well, who could be to blame? But it's all for show, of course, because there's no way Daphne could actually start her new chapter by falling in love with her ex-fiance's new fiance. Ex, right? That sounds like a mess waiting to happen, so I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. So then another one that I'm really anticipating, and my goal this year is to try to go back and read a lot of his other books that I have not read, because the only one I've read by him is The Only One Left. Riley Sager is releasing a book called Middle of the Night, and it says, the worst thing to ever happen on Hemlock Circle occurred in Ethan Marsh's backyard. One July night, 10-year-old Ethan and his best friend and neighbor Billy fell asleep in a tent set up on a manicured lawn in a quiet, quaint New Jersey cul-de-sac. In the morning, Ethan woke up alone. During the night, someone had sliced the tent open with a knife and taken Billy. He was never seen again. 30 years later, Ethan has reluctantly returned to his childhood home. Plagued by bad dreams and insomnia, he begins to notice strange things happening in the middle of the night. Someone seems to be roaming the cul-de-sac at odd hours, and signs of Billy's presence keep appearing in Ethan's backyard. Is someone playing a cruel prank, or is Billy, long thought to be dead, somehow returned to Hemlock Circle? The mysterious occurrences prompt Ethan to investigate what really happened that night, a quest that reunites him with former friends and neighbors and leads him into the woods that surround Hemlock Circle. Woods where Billy claimed monsters roamed, and where a mysterious institute does clandestine research on a crumbling estate. The closer Ethan gets to the truth, the more he realizes that no place, be it quiet forest or suburban street, is completely safe, and that the past has a way of haunting the present. So yes, another thriller. I'm so excited. But I am really trying to read a lot of his other books as well that I have missed out on, because I really did like The Only One Left, and I really liked the way he wrote that. And so I'm excited. I'm excited. So then another one that I'm really looking forward to that has absolutely no plot, absolutely no release date, but has a specific name on it is Grady Hendrix, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. You just put Grady Hendrix down and I'm like, yes, please. I'll take it. I'll take one. I love Grady Hendrix. I love his books. I love his storytelling. I just love the man. And this book has absolutely no story yet, no synopsis, no nothing, not even an actual release date, but I'm telling you, I am here for it. Another one on my absolutely I must buy list is going to be Spectacular by Stephanie Garber. This is a novella. It's technically Caraval 3.5, kind of has like a Christmassy kind of vibe to it. And so it is following Donatella and Scarlet and Julian and Legend, and I'm so stinking excited because I have not stepped foot in the Caraval universe. I have gone to Once Upon a Broken Heart territory, and I've seen Jax that way, and because Jax is in the Caraval series, but I have not stepped foot back in the Caraval series, and I'm so excited. This is following our main characters at Christmas time. That's all I'm gonna say. Because if you don't know who I'm talking about, sucks to be you. You need to read the Caraval books. I'm just saying it. Just saying it. I'm so excited. I'm gonna like snuggle up and read this at Christmas. Oh, life is gonna be good. And then last but not least, for my absolutely so excited releases is Wisteria by Adeline Grace. This is the third book in the Belladonna series. I have only read Belladonna, but my goal is actually to read Foxglove next month. And so this is the third book in the series. So obviously I am not gonna get into a crazy synopsis, mostly because I don't even want to read the synopsis because I haven't read Foxglove. So I don't want to read anything about Wisteria because I don't know what happens in Foxglove and I don't want anything to be ruined for me. I'm not a fan of spoilers. So I'm not gonna say anything else about that. And I highly recommend Belladonna. It's fantastic. So now we're gonna get into the rest of the list, and the rest of the list is more or less books that I'm excited about, but not necessarily like auto buy or, you know, I have to have it in my library type. So the next book on my list is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I have not read a lot about Ali Hazelwood. I have read The Love Hypothesis, but that's really it. I hear her other books are great, and I do want to read them. It's just when I don't have ideas of what to read, romance isn't the first thing I go for. So, but this romance is going to be different because this romance is werewolves and vampires, and that's right up my alley. So this says, Misery Lark, the only daughter of the most powerful vampire councilman of the Southwest, is an outcast again. Her days of living in anonymity among the humans are over. She's been called upon to uphold a historic peacekeeping alliance between the vampires and their mortal enemies, the Wares. And she sees little choice but to surrender herself in the exchange again. Wares are ruthless and unpredictable, and their alpha, Lo Morland, is no exception. He rules his pack with absolute authority, but not without justice. And unlike the Vampire Council, not without feeling. It's clear from the way he tracks Misery's every movement that he doesn't trust her. If only he knew how right he was. Because Misery has her own reasons to agree to the marriage of convenience. Reasons that have nothing to do with politics or alliances, and everything to do with the only thing she's ever cared about, and she is willing to do whatever it takes to get back what's hers, even if it means a life alone in Were territory, alone with the wolf. I'm very excited about that. I love a good paranormal vampire fantasy romance, paranormal romance. Bring it on. I am excited for that one. Another one I'm excited for is A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal. I apologize if I got that totally wrong. This is the author that wrote We Hunt the Flame. I have not read We Hunt the Flame. I own it. I have not read it yet. I want to, and I will try to read it before I read this just to get a feeling for his writing. But this one is also a vampire type story. So I was like, vampires? Say less. So on the streets of White Roaring, Arthi Casimir is a criminal mastermind and collector of secrets. Her prestigious tea room transforms into an illegal bloodhouse by dark, catering to the vampires feared by society. But when her establishment is threatened, Arthi is forced to strike an unlikely deal with an alluring adversary to save it, and she can't do the job alone. Calling upon a brand of misfits, Arthi formulates a plan to infiltrate the dark and glittering vampire society known as the Ethereum. But not every member of her crew is on her side, and as the truth behind the heist unfolds, Arthi finds herself in the midst of a conspiracy that will threaten the world as she knows it. Dark, action-packed, and swoon-worthy. This is Halfa Faisal better than ever. I love all the vampire books that are coming out these days. The next on my list is by an author that I've read before, that I've loved before, but the reason it's not on the absolutely must-buy list is because it's kind of a historical fantasy, and sometimes I struggle with historical fantasies. I just want all fantasy, that kind of thing. Because this is set during the Spanish Golden Age. And this is The Familiar by Lee Bardugo. The synopsis says, in a shabby house on a shabby street in the new capital of Madrid, Lucia Catado uses scraps of magic to get through her days of endless toil as a scullion. But when her scheming mistress discovers the lump of a servant cowering in the kitchen is actually hiding a talent for little miracles, she demands Lucia use those gifts to better the family's social position. What begins as simple amusement for the bored nobility takes a perilous turn when Lucia garners the notice of Antonio Perez, the disgraced secretary to Spain's king. Still reeling from the defeat of his armada, the king is desperate for any advance in the war against England's heretic queen, and Perez will stop at nothing to regain the king's favor. Determined to seize the only chance to better her fortunes, Lucia plunges into a world of seers and alchemists, holy men and hucksters, where the line between magic, science, and fraud is never certain. But as her notoriety grows, so does the danger that her Jewish blood will doom her to the Inquisition's wrath. She will have to use every bit of her wit and will to survive, even if that means enlisting the help of Julian Santangel, an embittered immortal familiar whose own secrets could prove deadly for them both. I'm excited. I'm curious about that one. So then another one that I don't really know anything much about the author. Again, the cover drew me in. That is Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. So it says, the lady knows the stories, how her eyes induce madness in men. The lady knows she will be wed to the Scottish brute, who does not leave his warrior ways behind when he comes to the marriage bed. The lady knows his hostile, suspicious court will be a game of strategy requiring all of her wiles and hidden witchcraft to survive. But the lady does not know her husband has occult secrets of his own. She does not know that prophecy girds him like armor. She does not know that her magic is greater and more dangerous, and that it will threaten the order of the world. She does not know this yet, but she will. So again, another historical fiction, a retelling, fantasy, magic. I'm excited. I'm excited. I don't think I've read anything by Ava Reid. Oh, I have not read anything by Ava Reid, but I do own A Study in Drowning, which I need to read, by Ava Reid. So then another book that I'm looking forward to is Sorcerous Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. I have read a couple of T. Kingfisher books. They're hit or miss with me too. And so this one is supposed to be like a retelling of like Brother Grimm's Goose Girl, so it's more of like a fairy tale retelling, which I tend to like more. So this one says, Cordelia knows her mother is unusual. Their house doesn't have any doors between rooms. There are no secrets in this house, and her mother doesn't allow Cordelia to have a single friend, unless you count Falada, her mother's beautiful white horse. The only time Cordelia feels truly free is on her daily rides with him. But more than simple eccentricity sets her mother apart. Other mothers don't force their daughters to be silent and motionless for hours, sometimes days on end. Other mothers aren't sorcerers. After a suspicious death in their small town, Cordelia's mother insists they leave in the middle of the night, riding away together on Falada's sturdy back, leaving behind all Cordelia has ever known. They arrive at a remote county manor of a wealthy older man, the squire, and his unwed sister, Hester. Cordelia's mother intends to lure the squire into marriage, and Cordelia knows this can only be bad news for the bumbling gentleman and his kind, intelligent sister. And indeed, Hester sees the way Cordelia shrinks away from her mother, how the young girl sits eerily still at dinner every night. Hester knows that to save her brother from bewitchment and to rescue the terrified Cordelia, she will have to face down a wicked witch of the worst kind. A very exciting fantasy, horror. T. Kingfisher is good at the horror, so I hear. So then something else that's coming out that I'm looking forward to is The City of Stardust by Georgia Summers. This one I don't really, like I said, I didn't know anything about. I was drawn in by the cover and by other people's excitement for it. And so this one says, a young woman descends into a seductive magical underworld of power-hungry scholars, fickle gods, and monsters bent on revenge to break her family's curse in this spellbinding contemporary fantasy debut. So it is a debut novel. For centuries, generations of Everleighs have seen their brightest and best disappear, taken as punishment for a crime no one remembers, for a purpose no one understands. Their tormentor, a woman named Penelope, never ages, never grows sick, and never forgives a debt. Violet Everleigh was just a child when her mother Marianne vanished on a stormy night, determined to break the curse. And when Penelope cannot find her, she eschews that Violet has 10 years to find Marianne, or she will take her place. Violet is the last of the Everleigh line, the last to suffer from the curse, unless she can break it first. To do so, she must descend into a seductive magical underworld, power-hungry scholars, fickle gods, and monsters bent on revenge. She must also contend with Penelope's quiet assistant, Alexander, who she knows cannot be trusted, and yet whose knowledge of a world beyond their own is too valuable to avoid. Tied to a very literal deadline, Violet will travel the edges of the world to find Marianne and the key to the City of Stardust, where the Everleigh story began. Fun little fantasy and an adult debut. Next on the list is The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. Catherine Arden is the writer of The Bear and the Nightingale, and I have not read anything by her, but this one seems interesting. So again, it's another like historical fiction, it's a thriller, it's a fantasy. January 1918, Laura Ivan was a revered field nurse until she was wounded and discharged from the medical corps, leaving behind a brother still fighting in Flanders. Now home in Halifax, Canada, she receives word of Freddie's death in combat, along with his personal effects, but something doesn't make sense. Determined to uncover the truth, Laura returns to Belgium as a volunteer at a private hospital. Soon after arriving, she hears whispers about haunted trenches and a strange hotelier whose wine gives soldiers the gift of oblivion. Could Freddie have escaped the battlefield only to fall prey to something or someone else? November 1917, Freddie Ivan awakens after an explosion to find himself trapped in an overturned pillbox with a wounded enemy soldier, a German by the name of Hans Winter. Against all odds, the two men form an alliance and succeed in clawing their way out. Unable to bear the thought of returning to the killing fields, especially on opposite sides, they take refuge with a mysterious man who seems to have the power to make the hellscape of the trenches disappear. As shells rain down on Flanders and ghosts move among those yet living, Laura and Freddie's deepest secrets are reawakened. Now they must decide whether their world is worth salvaging or better left behind entirely. That one sounds like it will be really interesting too. Another book that I'm looking forward to is a fantasy by S.T. Gibson, and it's an education in Malice. So S.T. Gibson wrote A Dowry of Blood, which is on my list to read for this year too. So it says, deep in the forgotten hills of Massachusetts stands St. Perpetua's College. Isolated and ancient, it is not a place for timid girls. Here, secrets are currency, ambition is lifeblood, and strange ceremonies welcome students into the fold. On her first day of class, Laura Sheardon is thrust into an intense academic rivalry with the beautiful and enigmatic Carmilla. Together, they are drawn into the confidence of their demanding poetry professor, De La Fontaine, who holds her own dark obsession with Carmilla. But as their rivalry blossoms into something far more delicious, Laura must confront her own strange hungers. Tangled in a sinister game of politics, bloodthirsty professors, and dark magic, Laura and Carmilla must decide how much they are willing to sacrifice in their ruthless pursuit of knowledge. Sounds like there's some sapphic stuff in there, LGBTQ rep. That'll be nice. And I love a dark academia. Love a dark academia. So then the next one is The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. Now Lucy Foley, I don't really know how to say her name, is hit or miss as well. I've read a couple of her books and one was great, one was not so great. So we'll see how this goes. This one is kind of supposed to be compared to like Clue, which is kind of why I'm looking forward to it. So it says, welcome to the opening weekend of the Manor, a luxury resort built on top of old secrets and an ancient wood. The founder, the lover, the mystery guest, the kitchen help, the detective. All have an agenda, all have a past, but not everyone will survive. So it definitely has like a Clue feel to it, where someone ends up dead and you have to figure out who did it, in what room, with what weapon. So I think that's what kind of drew me into it, is because I really love the movie Clue. I really love playing Clue. I just love knowing who done it. You know, I love a good whodunit. So hopefully this provides a whodunit that I will enjoy. The next one is A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle Jensen. So I've not read anything by Danielle Jensen. She's the one that wrote the Bridge Kingdom series. I did not read that, but this one sounded very interesting. So it says, bound in an unwanted marriage, Freya spends her days gutting fish, but dreams of becoming a warrior and of putting an axe in her boorish husband's back. Freya's dreams abruptly become reality when her husband betrays her to the region's Jarl, landing her in a fight to the death against his son Bjorn. To survive, Freya is forced to reveal her deepest secret. She possesses a drop of goddess's blood, which makes her a shield maiden with magic, capable of repelling any attack. It was foretold such a magic would unite the fractured nation of Scotland beneath the one who controls the shield maiden's fate. Believing he's destined to rule Scotland as king, the fanatical Jarl binds Freya with a blood oath and orders Bjorn to protect her from their enemies. Desperate to prove her strength, Freya must train to fight and learn to control her magic, all while facing perilous tests set by the gods. The greatest test of all, however, may be resisting her forbidden attraction to Bjorn. If Freya succumbs to her lust for the charming and a fierce warrior, she risks not only her destiny, but the fate of all the people she swore to protect. This is an adult fantasy romance. Sounds intriguing. I love a good romantasy. Next up is Lore of the Wilds by Annalie Sbrana, and this one drew me in because there's a library. I love books about books. I love books about libraries. I love books about bookstores. I love books about books. So this one says, a stunning romantasy debut. Another debut. A library with a deadly enchantment, a fey lord who wants in, a human woman willing to risk it all for the taste of power. In a land ruled by ruthless fey, 21-year-old Lore Almeyu's village is trapped in a forested prison. Lore knows that any escape attempt is futile. Her scars are a testament to her past failures. But when her village is threatened, Lore makes a desperate deal with a fey lord. She will leave her home to catalog/organize an enchanted library that hasn't been touched in 1,000 years. No fey may enter the library, but there is a chance a human might be able to breach the cursed doors. She convinces him that she will risk her life for wealth, but really she's after the one thing the Fae covet above all, magic of her own. As Lore navigates the hostile world outside, she's forced to rely on two Fae males to survive. Two very different, very dangerous, very attractive Fae males. When undeniable chemistry ignites, she's not just in danger of losing her life, but her heart to the very creatures she can never trust. Sounds like it's gonna be a good one. I love a Fae. I love the Fae. This one, all you gotta tell me is Casey McQuiston, another LGBTQ book, LGBTQ romance. I'm in. Casey McQuiston, LGBTQ romance. Why not? Red, white, and royal blue, anybody? I'm obsessed with that book. I loved that book. And now she's writing the pairing. So it is another queer adult novel, contemporary romance. She has written, and it doesn't have a whole lot about it, but it does say two bisexual exes accidentally book the same European food and wine tour and challenge each other to an international hookup competition to prove they're over each other. And they are over each other, right? Oh, tension. I see tension. I see love. I see jealousy. I see anger. I see beautiful scenery because they're going to Europe for a food and wine tour. I'm in. The next one is The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields. I know that this is sapphic, and it doesn't say anything about it being a debut novel, but I have not read anything else by Sydney Shields. So this one says, 21-year-old Marigold Claude has always preferred the company of the spirits of the meadow to any of the suitors who've tried to woo her. So when her grandmother whisks her away to the family cottage in the tiny isle of Innisfree with an offer to train her as the next Honey Witch, she accepts immediately. But her newfound magic and independence come with a no one can fall in love with the Honey Witch. When Lottie Burke, a notoriously grumpy skeptic who doesn't believe in magic, shows up on her doorstep, Marigold can't resist the challenge to prove to her that magic is real. But soon, Marigold begins to care for Lottie in ways she never expected. And when darker magic awakens and threatens to destroy her home, she must fight for much more than her new home, at the risk of losing her magic and her heart. It sounds like it's gonna be a good one. The next one really just drew me in from the cover alone. Like I was like, cottagecore? I'm in. And that is A Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. So this one says, Keela has always had trouble dealing with people, and as librarian at the Great Library of Elysium, she hasn't had to. She and her assistant Kaz, a sentient spider plant, have spent most of the last 11 years sequestered among the Empire's precious spellbooks, protecting the magic for the city's elite. But a revolution is brewing, and when the library goes up in flames, she and Cass steal away whatever books they can and flee to the faraway island where she grew up. She's hoping to lay low and figure out a way to survive before the revolution comes looking for her. To her dismay, in addition to a nosy and very handsome neighbor, she finds the town in disarray. The Empire with its magic spellbooks has slowly been draining power from the island, something that Keela is indirectly responsible for, and now she's determined to find a way to make things right. Opening up a spell shop comes with its own risks. The consequence of sharing magic with commoners is death, and as Keela comes to make a place for herself among the quirky townspeople, she realizes that in order to make life for herself, she must break down the walls she has kept so high. So this one says, for fans of Travis Baldry and TJ Klune, this spell shop is romantic and a cozy fantasy. And I love Baldry and I love Klune. This is giving me Legends and Lattes vibes. I'm very excited. I'm more excited now that I'm sitting here and I read the synopsis. But seriously, the cover alone. Look at that. The cover alone. Down to the final two, my friends. It's the final countdown. So this one is by Kristen Perrin, and she spells her name correctly. And it's How to Solve Your Own Murder. So this is like for fans of Knives Out and the Thursday Murder Club, and probably like Only Murders in the Building. So it kind of is right up my alley because I really love Knives Out and I really love Only Murders in the Building. So this says it's 1965 and teenage Frances Adams is at an English county fair with her two best friends. But Frances's night takes a hairpin turn when a fortune teller makes a bone-chilling prediction. One day, Frances will be murdered. Frances spends a lifetime trying to solve a crime that hasn't happened yet, compiling dirt on every person who crosses her path in an effort to prevent her own demise. For decades, no one takes Frances seriously, until nearly 60 years later, when Frances is found murdered, like she always said she would be. In the present day, Annie Adams has been summoned to a meeting at the sprawling county estate of her wealthy and reclusive great-aunt Frances. But by the time Annie arrives in the quaint English village of Castle Knoll, Frances is already dead. Annie is determined to catch the killer, but thanks to Frances' lifelong habit of digging up secrets and lies, it seems every endearing and eccentric villager might just have a motive for her murder. Can Annie safely unravel the dark mystery at the heart of Castle Knoll, or will dredging up the past throw her into the path of a killer? As Annie gets closer to the truth and closer to the danger, she starts to fear she might inherit her aunt's fate instead of her fortune. So I'm definitely thinking it's got those cozy mystery vibes that I have been trying to get more into, more wrapped up in, so very excited. And then last, but certainly not least, a book by Ashley Poston, I don't know how to say her last name, and it's a novel love story. I have read The Dead Romantics. I have the 7-Year Slip on my shelf to read, and I really like her writing style. I really like her versions of romances because a lot of times they're paranormal or there is something quirky about them. They have a fantasy kind of aspect, and so this is one that I will be attempting to read as well. But again, like I said, on this list, it's not the auto buy, have to run out and get it type. No, this is if I get to it, I get to it. So this is Eileen Merriweather knows a thing or two about romance. As a professor of literature, she teaches prestigious courses on history's greatest romantics. But 1 week out of the year, she abandons her dusty at textbooks and makes a pilgrimage to the Hudson Valley with her best friend Prue to meet their super smutty book club in person and celebrate the romance series that brought them together, Quickstock Falls. It's a week of wine and happily ever afters. Where it's supposed to be. Prue bails at the last minute, and Elsie winds up lost in Hudson Valley, alone, in a thunderstorm. When she takes shelter in a bookstore, she immediately gets on the bad side of its grumpy and infuriatingly sexy owner and finds herself in a quaint town that feels like it's right out of a book. Because it is. Eloraton can't be real, and yet she's here. The town is everything she imagined from her favorite series, where the candy store's honey taffy is always sweet and the local bar's burgers are always a little burnt, and rain always comes in the afternoon. It's perfect, a place built on meet cutes and storybook endings. Except there's something off in Eloraton because nothing changes, nothing moves, trapped in a last place the late author of Quickstock Falls left them, which must be why Elsie is to find an ending to this last story, the one the author never finished. The only problem? The bookstore owner never wants the story to end, and he might be the one person who can help her imagine this final happy ever after, and maybe find one for herself. I mean, she falls into a book. bring it on. I'm so excited for this year, you guys. And that's all my books. And I'm so excited for this year. There are some really good books coming out. Some of my favorite authors are releasing books and I am thrilled. I'm so thrilled and I'm so excited. And I hope you are too. And I hope you grabbed a piece of paper and a pen and wrote a lot of these down because I want you to read them. And I want you to tell me what you think when you do read them. And I also want you to comment below. What are some of your most anticipated reads? What are you excited for? What did I miss? Are you excited for anything that I listed? Just let me know. I'm always looking for more books. Always. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found something on here that maybe you're looking forward to read. I hope you found something on here you didn't even know was coming out. Until next time, friends, I hope you live every day like it is the best day of your life. You love yourself unconditionally and you are reading some really, really good books. And I will catch you in the next video. Bye!